Hey, everybody, Facebook land.
We are back.
We are back tonight. Back at the old time again, once again.
Again, back at the old time, and it's warm.
Isn't it? Man, this weather is awesome. I spent all weekend outside doing stuff outside that I should have been doing a long time ago.
Right? All right, let's do some sharing.
Yeah. And speaking of, Facebook played a trick on me here. Something's going on with the way we share, and I'm actually going to have to go and...
Oh, you got to do what I got to do, huh?
Yeah, I got to do it the old-fashioned way, which is not fair at all.
Uh-huh.
So, they definitely changed something on the setting side.
All right.
Make it a little more complicated for me. But hopefully everybody's having a good weekend this weekend. I know I had a busy weekend. Had a good day yesterday. We were at the turkey seminar here in Flint, Michigan for the NWTF Flint River Chapter turkey workshop. And that was a good time. And we'll tie that into what we're going to talk about tonight, actually.
There you go.
So one more here, and I am ready, Danny.
Yeah, give me a few minutes. Okay, that's...
Yeah, you got about 18 to do over there, I think.
One down.
So.
Okay.
Actually, we got the window open in the cabin tonight.
I know, it's nice.
First time since probably last October or September. It's been quite a while, that's for sure. So.
I know, it's you can actually hear the birds and everything, and it's kind of nice.
I seen a big strutter out back in the field running around with 4 hens yesterday morning. This morning I saw 9 deer run through the back field. So yeah,
they were out there.
Yeah, you said they were in there when you pulled in.
When I drove over, and I saw it is back. Actually, it was Friday night when I saw one. It was live. It was a mosquito.
Seriously?
Seriously.
Oh, man. Somebody actually mentioned something about that. Tom Ginsel's on. Hey, what's going on? Billy Hoffman, evening. Back at you. Ron Moses, good evening to you as well. Billy Hoffman says 120-plus shooters this weekend at the club.
Good
Lots
job.
of new members. Good deal. Glad you guys are having some good success over there.
That's right. All right.
Looks like Randy Duncan's on as well watching. Hey, Randy, what's going on? You ready?
Yes.
Yes, no, maybe so? Okay. All right. Here we go. Stand by and in 3, 2, and 1. Welcome back to another episode of the Up North Journal podcast. Everybody, host Mike Adams sitting in the cabin tonight with a window open and Dan DeFaw on my side.
That's right. Here I am.
What is up, my friend?
It's warm. Home Depot was a madhouse yesterday, I was told.
Yeah?
Luckily, we were at the turkey seminar.
We were. Definitely were.
But it's funny because it's like the first very warm weekend.
Mm-hmm.
And I've driven by Home Depot, I think, like 3 times this weekend, and it's been like parking lot full.
How many people do you think have bought flowers and going to plant them and watch them die?
I tell you what, it'll be funny because they even did a tip and said, don't do it yet.
Right. I see Jason Pfister's watching. Hey, Jason. Tim Cius, all the way from West Virginia, is in the house tonight watching as well. Congratulations on you and your daughter both getting your hunter safety certificate.
Right. Congratulations.
So, that is awesome. But let's get right into the show tonight.
Yeah, yesterday we spent a few hours talking turkey.
And who do we talk to? Or who do you talk with?
The one and only Killer Miller himself.
Jim Miller, are you still on with us, bud?
Hey, I'm still here.
All right. Hey, by the way, happy birthday a day late. Want to get that out there real quick.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Hey.
Had a good birthday.
That's good. I always like good birthdays. Like good days, but good birthdays are even better. So,
not only is a Killer Miller, but he's a president
of the Flint River Chapter of the NWTF here in our home area here in Flint, Michigan area. So, yeah, you guys had a great seminar yesterday, Jim. How long does it take to put something like that on? I mean, just roughly speaking, when do you start planning for that?
Well, actually, it doesn't take that much to plan a thing. I just line up the speakers ahead of time. You got to get them booked so they don't get booked somewhere else. But no, it doesn't take that long at all to put it together. As long as you got a place like Williams, that could open the doors for us.
Right. And a shout out to Williams Gunsight Company. I do a little side work there at the TV station for them with On the Trail. And I tell you what, they've got a great place over there. And Tom, the owner, loves to help kids out. And actually, we'll talk a little bit about that here at the end of the show with you over the Jakes event. But no, you guys put on a great event yesterday. A lot of good information. I've been to Jim. I can't even count how many of those I've been to, but every time I come to one of those, I always learn something new, and that's what's great about your guys' event.
Yeah, well, Dan Prince there, he's a great storyteller. You can always learn something from him. He told us yesterday that, in fact, he showed me a back of a license that we started these workshops in '96. I didn't remember being that long, but we've been doing it.
1996.
And he's been doing every one?
No, he came on board probably about 5 or 6 years ago now.
Okay. That's awesome when you can get a conservation officer to take a day,
Right.
come on over, and he brought a lot of stuff over to show and tell.
Yeah, he did.
And besides the stories that he did tell, some tips and tricks, it was nice to see and hear from him. And a big shout out to those guys for what they go through, because they seem to be always the messenger guy and I always get yelled at.
Ain't that the truth?
Right?
But, you mentioned Dan's a great storyteller. Some of the things he was talking about yesterday, Jim, simply, I didn't know. I mean, I haven't been turkey hunting that long, maybe, 15 years-ish. But he talked about that the hens, when they get on the nest, that they sit on the nest all night. I didn't know that the hens did not go back to roost at night. I didn't know they sit on the nest all night.
Well, when they lay an egg a day, they will leave the nest, go back to roost. But once they get the entire clutch laid, no, they don't leave the nest. They stay right on the nest, which makes them very vulnerable.
Yeah, I'm surprised that we still have turkey, tell you the truth, because you'd think that coyotes and other varmints would, or predators would get a hold of them.
Well, that's the thing. I think that's it, right? She stays on the nest. I think just for that purpose, especially like raccoons.
Right.
Gives them some kind of defense.
Sure. Yeah, and the other thing that surprised me, Jim, was the fact he talked about that the hen will actually, once she starts incubating those eggs, will take and turn those eggs every hour. That seems like a lot.
Yeah, I don't know why they do that. I'm not a biologist, but I've heard that.
I think what that does is it keeps the temperature throughout the egg, so
Even?
one side doesn't get
Sunny side up.
Exactly. In essence, yeah, right. So it's an incubation thing, because that's when you're incubating eggs, you're rolling them. So, I think it's just to keep the temperature consistent throughout the egg.
Right, exactly. But yeah, it's always good stuff, good stories. I like when he starts talking, he'll get into the story, and then when you get to the shot, he'll go boom, and he says it so loud that everybody in the crowd jumps, including me, and I know it's coming.
Yeah. In fact, that's a big selling point. We advertise the workshop. We talk about Dan and you got to come and hear the big boom and hear the stories about the professor.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, that's awesome about the professor being his dad and everything. And actually, I posed a question to him that he didn't know the answer to. I gave him my phone number, and he called me at 8:20 this morning with an answer. And the question was that we've heard that the ground temperature has to be a certain temperature before the hen will lay eggs. So I asked him, I said, is this true? And he says, well, I got an inside track. I'll find out. And his reply to me this morning was, everything that he's read and looked at comes down to length of day. So it's more dependent on length of day, and he can't find anything about ground temperature.
Okay, so it's more to do with the length of the day. And Jim, I got to imagine that if it is that's the reason why it's like the same exact week almost every year that they start during the breeding season. Is that right?
Yeah. It's like he said there, most of the hens are bred before the season starts. And I can remember opening day up in Glenny years ago with snow on the ground, and the turkeys are already on nest. So
wow.
So like you say, it's the length of the day, not so much the weather itself.
Wow, that's it, to me. That was another thing that I heard that kind of I went, wow, I didn't realize that is that most of the breeding's already done by the time we get in the field, for that first week.
And I think that's really good. That that shows that the biologists are thinking that you're not going to kill them before.
Right, gives them a chance to.
Yeah, that's all by design.
Yeah, that's something else.
Well, another thing too about the nesting is kind of interesting. Once the poults will hatch out, they'll be able to fly up in a tree when they're like 10 or 11 days old.
Really? And
that's just incredible. I think that they'll be able to do that. They can't fly really well and can't get too high, but they can get off the ground.
Well, before that time, in that short window, that week or two before they actually get to learn to fly, I mean, what do they do? I mean, is it like, do they covey up at night and huddle together? Do you know anything about that?
Yeah, they don't leave the nest at all. The hen will. She'll leave the nest to go feed and whatever, and and do her thing. But no, they stay right there until she comes back.
Wow,
that's a really cool factor.
It's the way nature takes care of itself. We've talked about this so many times. Mother Nature seems to always know what to do and how to these birds and animals. They thrive and survive.
Yeah,
it's
and
incredible.
It's built in to their DNA of how the mother can get like a fawn get a fawn to lay down, sit still, and don't move till I come back, or
right.
And same thing. It sounds like with turkeys, stay in the nest,
right.
Don't go anywhere till I come back.
Right.
So,
well, Jim, you're the president of our local chapter here in the Flint, Michigan area. With NWTF, how's things going right now? I mean, are they doing with their membership? Are we looking good? Are we looking to get more young people involved? What's kind of like the overall just general feeling right now with NWTF?
Well, one thing you said there, our big focus now is to not only get the young people involved, get the non-hunters are involved. There's the big push this year is take adults up and start them hunting, because a lot of them aren't hunters. And so the chapter's doing really well. We got formed in '93, I think, and we've been going strong ever since.
Okay. And you know what? It was nice to see yesterday when you asked who was new hunters. We had one young gentleman, but we did have 4 or 5 older gentlemen it was their first time hunting. So, like Jim said, getting the older hunter out there.
Right. Do you see more of that coming now, or is it the older hunters coming in, or older people coming in to try and turkey hunting, or I always hear that the youth, we're always lacking in the youth, and we need to get more youth involved. But I mean, where do you see the biggest influx right now?
Yeah, that's been the big focus for years. Get the young people involved. But what we're finding is, we're getting the youth involved, but mom and dad are right there too and never hunted. Well, the big focus, like I said, the last year or so is get them out in the woods too. And there's a big push on to do that, not just at the Michigan level, at the national level.
Okay, I know you've done some things with some of the youth. I've heard some of the stories and things. Is the group here in this area, is that the big push right now? I mean, are you guys really concentrating on taking people out, those first timers that are a little bit older?
Yeah, we are. In fact, we may take a couple disabled veterans here in the 234 hunt. I don't know if we can put it together in time, but that's what our goal is, to get them out and then, of course, get the kids out. I think this fall, we're a big push to take 3 or 4 different kids out. So that's kind of what our plan is.
That is awesome. If for guys and gals out there, maybe turkey hunters like Danny and I, or somebody that's listening to the show right now, how would you what would you tell them if, say, I'd like to take somebody out hunting, but I don't know what I should do? What kind of information would you give them to help facilitate that?
Well, really the biggest problem we have is access. Where do we take these hunters? There's so many places that are leased, and the farmer can't let you on his property because he's got the lease or whatever. Mm-hmm. And so that access, that's the big thing in trying to find a place to take the kids. And Steve Sharp, our regional, our R3 director here in Michigan, he has compiled a list of adults that might be interested in going hunting at the Jake's events. He'll get them aside and get their name, and he's got a whole list we're going to work off. And but I think that's kind of what the entire state is going to be pushing for this next year.
Okay, so people that are interested in doing something like this, getting some land, getting access to land to take somebody, or finding people to take.
Getting a list, and that's always good to have, because you always sit around going, who can we call?
Right, start working with your regional or state directors, and helping get that going. So
that's right, and and it's good to have a go-to list like that, because something might happen, turn around late, and you might have to make that call and be okay.
Right. You know, hey, I want to give a quick shout out to a couple people here real quick. We got one guy from the state of Washington, Ted Moores. I don't believe I've seen that name on here before, so quick shout. Thanks for tuning in tonight. But also Wayne Sitton, who's a Michigander. Actually, I think he's Oklahoman, but he's in Michigan. But actually tonight he's in Minnesota, so he's on the road doing something. But, you know, getting back to turkey hunting here a little bit, Jim, it seems like every time I drive around this area, I know Michigan before, birds seemed to be extinct, and you know, back in the 70s and 80s, and it finally started to turn around a little bit when they started planting birds. But now they just seem to be everywhere. Kind of give us a rundown of how's our state doing for birds?
Well, last time I heard Al Stewart told some guys the other day we have over 300,000 birds in the area now. Or, I mean, in the state.
Wow.
Most of them are in southern Michigan, like middle and south. Well, back in the 90s, we got involved with the trap and release program with the DNR. And God, we had a blast, you know, trap the birds with the cannon nets, and they would send them to Rose Lake, get tested for disease, and those birds would go to the west side of the state, and then the people that side of the state would bring their birds over here. And we released, I think it was probably about 30 birds total over 2 releases in the hogbacks back in the 90s. And all the birds around here, like Formar Nature Preserve and all of them, are direct descendants from those birds we released. So that's kind of makes you feel good when you're driving down the road. You know, I just come up the main road just a few minutes ago, and there was a tom and a couple of hens in the field there. And it kind of makes you feel good that you put something back into the sport.
That is awesome. You know, and to think that transplanting birds back years ago, and now we've got what we've got here in the area. You know, I know down here in southern Genesee County, Lapeer County, northern Oakland County, Livingston County, Shiawassee. It just seems like any country road you drive down, you're gonna see birds in the morning or in the evening. You know, coming off the roost or going to the roost. It's just incredible.
It is, and it just goes to see what we can do.
They're not doing much trap and transfer anymore because they got every place that's got habitat, turkey habitat's got birds in it. So
okay.
So the only time they'll trap now, if a farmer's got a problem with too many birds on his farm, and turkeys kind of get a bad rap. The people think that the turkeys are eating their crops up, and I'm sure that does happen. But the turkeys aren't the main culprits there. It's raccoons and you can deer too, I suppose, but. So anyway, they'll go in and trap birds on the property and just take them someplace just to make him happy, because we don't want him getting mad at our turkeys.
No, not at all. Yeah, it's something you said there. You're talking about the other animals doing a lot of the damage. You know, a lot of people don't really realize that. They think deer do a lot of damage to crops, you know, especially corn, and it's like, no, a lot of it is really raccoons.
Yeah.
You know, and you can tell because when you go out to the edge of a cornfield up next to a woodlot, those corn stalks are pulled down to the ground, and that's from the raccoons pulling them down to get to the
grabbing them.
Yeah, because a deer will walk up and eat them right off the stalk.
Yeah, they don't have to move. They don't have to bend down or nothing, right?
You know, so that's a telltale sign. But yeah, we need to get back and get our people trapping as well, which will help the turkeys as well. So I wish more people would trap.
And what happens with raccoons? They'll knock a stalk of corn down, but they won't eat all the corn.
Yeah.
They'll just eat some of it and go down another stalk and break one down, and then. It multiplies the problem.
Little bandits.
They need to finish their meals.
That's right. Quit wasting food.
Right.
Yeah.
But no, so you were part of that trap and release program back years ago here in Michigan?
I was, and we had a blast. And what we did was the DNR. Well, for a long time, Lapeer State Game Area was like a nursery. They had a lot of birds there. And they didn't allow hunting there for many years, mainly because it was like such a good nursery. We would go in, the DNR would go in and bait an area, and put up a blind, and then we would sit in the blind, go in before daybreak, and just watch, find out what time those birds are coming in. Because the DNR biologists, they can't sit there all day and do that. So we would get the birds programmed, and then we would call them, and they'd come out an hour ahead of time, set up the nets, and then shoot the cannon nets over them, and box them up, and then haul them to the Rose Lake. But it was a blast.
That to me would. I was actually on. I spent a day down at Point Mouillet, and they trapped and banded geese. before they got their flight feathers, during that molting process. And I took the boys down, and I think I took the girls as well. Or maybe, I don't know. I know I had 2 or 3 or all the kids with me. And that, to me, was so much fun. It was a lot of work, but it was a lot of fun and a lot of education. And you get hands-on, with wildlife. And it does. It makes you feel like a sense of helping and putting back into nature, just doing something as simple as that.
Right. So how hard is it to put a turkey in a box?
It's hard. What you have to do is you have to pin the wings to the body. Once you get that done, you're all set. We had an instance there. There was a big tom that we had trapped and went over, and one of the release sites was over in Flushing area, and one of our guys wanted to get a picture with this big tom before he released it. He let go of the wings. And I tell you what, this guy got beat up before we got a picture. But it's not easy. But if you get the legs pinned, the wings pinned and the legs, you're all set there. You can put them in the box. They don't like it, but.
And I assume most those birds were all banded as well, weren't they?
No,
oh,
no, I heard they banded birds years and years ago, but not since we've been involved. In fact, there was years ago they used to put transmitters on them so they could follow their patterns and find out where they go and how far they move at certain times of the year. But I'm sure that was a very expensive program. They haven't done that in years.
Okay, I just wonder. I know that waterfowl, because I know you're into waterfowl as well, waterfowl hunting, and I just wondered if I've heard of people talking about bands on turkeys years ago, but I didn't know when they did that or how closely or how recently they've done that. So.
Well, back when there were just a few birds in the state, you could learn a lot from the banding process. But now there's so many birds all over the place, you really don't. In fact, they've already compiled information that they would have learned anyway, probably.
Okay. Now, when they trapped those birds, were they looking mostly at toms or at hens, or did they just trap whatever they could get?
Well, they targeted hens and mainly jakes. They did want to put a few longbirds in. In fact, we never saw it, but I've heard stories about they released these birds into areas, and some poacher driving down the road sees that long beard, and there's your turkey's gone. So what they've done is some of those long beards just cut the beard off.
Okay.
Just snip it right off, which you'd think, oh man, that's a shame, but it probably saved the bird's life, But
right at the time, yeah, that's a good deterrent of being able to let the turkey establish himself in the area. Because, like you said, Mr. Poacher's traveling down the road and sees that, he's all over it.
Right. Well, I tell you what, we're bumping up here on our first break. We're running a little bit long, so we're going to step outside. We're going to take our first break. We come back, we'll continue the conversation. We'll be right back after this.
And for everybody out in Facebook who's watching, Kevin Buckley, Ken Cicluna, Lincoln Roan, Rich, Wayne, Adam, Jim, Jerry Lambert's on. Got any questions for El Presidente Miller? Or Killer Miller?
That's right.
I don't know which we should call him. I'm kind of torn here. I don't know. But, any questions? We'll fire them off to him when I get them. But the second segment, got to find out how he hunts.
Here we go. Okay.
Let's dive into the mind of a Killer Miller.
Okay, here we go. 3, 2, 1. Welcome back. Second segment of the show. We're sitting here talking with Jim Miller, talking about the turkey restoration project, somebody who actually worked on that project for our area here. So you've got Jim and others to thank for the birds we have here. That's awesome, and I really appreciate what you guys have done in the past to establish these birds. But talking about established birds, now we want to hunt some birds, Jim. So season's upon us, and I know you're just itching to get out there. What are you doing right now at this time of the year? Or what should people be doing at this time of the year to get ready for season?
Well, if you got a spot that you've hunted for years, and I have a spot that I hunt, and it never changes. I'm the only one that hunts it, luckily. So there's not a lot of scouting involved for me, but most people, drive the roads, watch for birds in fields, and maybe get up before daybreak and go and sit on the edge of a wood lot and listen for gobbling and just try to locate some birds. Walk roads, sandy roads, look for tracks, scat, feathers, whatever. And during the wintertime, the birds will be grouped together, and they probably won't be in your spot come spring. But when the weather breaks, the birds break up and they start moving around. Like you may go into an area maybe a couple weeks ago, there's not a single turkey track, you know, and maybe right now or next week it's going to be covered with them, you know. So this is a transition time where they're moving from winter to the spring areas.
Now, at this time of year, I mean, you said your spot really doesn't change, so you don't have a lot of scouting to do. Are you breaking calls out and conditioning calls and just running calls again to kind of get back in that swing of things? Or are you the type of guy that plays with the calls all year long and drives your wife insane?
Oh, yeah. But we do that at home. I hear stories about guys going out just when I hear a bird gobble, so go out there to their spot and make a bunch of calls, and that's something you shouldn't do. There's no point in making that bird any smarter than what he is.
Yeah, they don't need any help being smart.
Right. That's one of the things that we, you know, when people ask us or we talk to people, it's like, you know, practice the call at home, annoy your dog or your cat, but don't take it out in the woods because you're just going to educate them. And you're right. Don't make them any smarter than they are.
Right.
But we do have a question for you, and the question is, do you think that the state is almost ready for a 2-bird limit, like so many other states have, and that they seem to be doing okay? Do you think Michigan is almost ready to step into that 2-bird limit for the spring?
That's been discussed for the last couple of years. Well, just for instance, Nebraska, I heard the other day they have 250,000 birds, and about the same amount of hunters as what we have. They have a 2-bird limit in the spring. It's been proposed to the NRC. In March, the DNR gets all the biologists together, and they sit down and hash out, you know, the season and talk about the coming seasons. And that's one thing that I will say our biologist here in this area has brought up for the last couple of years is a 2-bird limit in the spring. And you could break it up. You could say we can't shoot at both birds in the same hunt period or the same hunt area. You know, there's a lot of things you can do to make sure that you're not taking all the birds out of one flock or whatever. But I'm sure it was discussed again this year, but I don't have a good feeling about it. I don't think it's going to happen.
You know, that's one thing that you see other states. One of the gentlemen that we know, Josh, he took 2 birds down in Tennessee. Here, I know where I hunt locally, the first 2 weeks of the season, there becomes a lot of public pressure on the state land. So getting 2 birds right off the bat, I kind of like Jim's thought there that he said splitting it up. You know, maybe if you shoot one in, we'll just say April, you can't hunt till, let's say, late May.
Yeah,
that would be awesome. But it is kind of rough when you're doing the 1 week thing, like Dan Print said. You know, you've got that period to hunt, so you're hunting out there no matter the weather.
We've had some bad weather in early April.
Right, and
that
so
first week.
That's a great idea. I kind of like that one, but you know, you're not getting a good feeling about it. So I hope things change in a way, because I kind of would like more than just that 1 week or, you know, that second chance.
Yeah, I want to stay in the woods longer. Like this season, I was fortunate enough to have a bird located the day before. Had a 20-minute hunt. And it's true I didn't have to pull the trigger. I could have waited, but who wants to do that? You know, but it's a nice 3-year-old. But so anyway, I had a 20-minute hunt. It would have been nice to get another permit and maybe not go out just to shoot another bird, just for the opportunity to go out and sit in the blind and make some calls. And you know, if a bird comes along that you want, shoot it, or just watch them. You know, it gives you the opportunity to stay in the woods. I guess you could do that with a camera too, but I have done that quite a few times. But just the opportunity to spend as much time in the woods as you can.
Yeah. Looking at that, and what you were just saying about going out and, you know, taking the camera with you or what have you, if you're actively calling to birds, would the DNR consider that hunting even though you didn't have a firearm, or are you just out there in the woods just participating in the outdoors at that point?
That's a few years ago. That's kind of a gray area. I think they put that problem to bed, though. I think they realize what you're doing there. There was some question about a guide. A guide would take them. Maybe a guide would kill the bird a week before, and he takes somebody out, you know, the next week. He's trying to call that bird to him. Mm-hmm. He don't have a tag, you know, so there was some question about that. But I think you just got to be reasonable about it. You know, you got to understand what's really the thought here. You know, what are they really trying to do?
I think that goes back to one of Dan Prince's stories that he confronted somebody out in the field hunting. He didn't say he was turkey hunting, but he had everything gun, shell, call in the cab of the truck. So
Not with him in the field.
right. So yeah, definitely, I could definitely see if somebody else was calling for it. Are they actually trying to hunt? But if they don't have the gun.
Well, I know, I'm trying to remember what state it was that we hunted. I want to say it was Ohio. When we turkey hunted, I had to buy a turkey license even though I was taking my son out.
Oh, okay.
My youngest, I had Jake with me. He was, real young at the time. He was the one with the firearm. He had his license to kill a bird. I wasn't carrying a shotgun. I was carrying a camera.
But you still need a license.
But because I was guiding him, I had to have a license. So
Okay.
I don't know. So, like you said, Jim, it's you kind of wonder sometimes. And I guess that's one of those gray areas where it's at the discretion of the CO, I guess.
So we talked about getting out scouting, doing it right now because we only got about 2 weeks, and then the season's going to start kicking off here. Getting scouting done, taking care of that, getting the calls out, getting them ready, warming up, practicing. What's your favorite call when you're out there, when you're waiting for Mr. Tom to show his beautiful face?
I would love to tell you I have a favorite call, but I can't do that. I pretty much use everything. I probably use a slate call more than anything because I like the tone it makes. You can do so much with a slate call. When the birds are in close, you got your gun up to your shoulder. You're just trying to get them that last few yards. A mouth call is super. There's no movement, and they're hard to learn on. But once you learn on them, they're really, especially a bow hunter. They're really good to use. I like box calls. If it's a real windy day or the weather's bad, it just seems like a box call carries more. And in fact, this year I got digging through my box here, and I've got about 8 box calls. So the one I'm going to take this year is a Lynch. It's got 1958 on it. I don't know if that's the year it was made or not, but that's my first call I ever bought. And that's going to woods this year. I kind of retired it, but I pulled it out of retirement just to try something different.
Those old Lynch calls are something else. I've got one. Mine's not that old, but that was one of the first ones I purchased as well. So
he seems to be the leader of the market.
Calls.
What's that, Jim?
There is a ton of mouth calls out there, and there's really no best one. People talk about not just turkey hunting, any kind. What's the best gun? What's the best shotgun? What's the best call? Yeah, there isn't. There isn't the best call. What works best for you? So. But you can't have too many. Every once in a while, I look at my turkey vest and think I gotta get rid of some of this stuff, but I can't do it. It's all got to go.
Yeah, you get that stuff and you paid good money for it. It's like I got to take it all with me. The whole kitchen sink. When you go out. Go ahead.
2 springs ago, I weighed my vest and weighed 28 pounds. So.
Wow. Well, that's what I was going to say. How many calls do you take with you when you go out? Do you take everything you've got, or do you have like a certain set that you take with you?
No, I probably, over the years, I probably got 20 mouth calls. I got it narrowed down to my 4 or 5 best. I take them out, and I got my one favorite there as far as mouth calls goes. Box calls are kind of hard to haul around. They take up a lot of room. I just take one of them.
Okay.
Probably take two slate calls, and I do have a glass call that I take too. That's one of those calls that emits a higher pitch than the slate call. So if it's kind of bad weather, you want to get out there a little more. This does make a higher tone. In fact, I'm told, like the Luna calls especially, there's a tone there that goes so high that human ear can't even hear it. But
really?
Turkeys can't. So. Yeah, so that's kind of interesting too. So
I did not know that.
You can't have too many.
No, you can never have too many.
I tell you what, some of these box calls that I've seen some of these makers making are almost too pretty to take out in the woods.
Right.
I know when they're starting to mix the woods and and getting them all shiny, and it's like, I don't want to take that out in the woods.
Well, I don't want anything shiny in the woods anyway. Right? It's more like a piece of furniture that you've got.
It is, and they're making them like that. But so a slate call. Now you said glass and aluminum. Do you have any preference besides after the slate? Do you carry the aluminum for just in case you do have that higher winds, bad weather type thing?
Now the aluminum one, I kind of retired that. One thing I experienced with that, you have to constantly keep roughing the surface up. Like a slate call, you rough it up, and it's probably good for half a day,
Mm-hmm.
But the aluminum calls, you have to continuously rough them up. Glass isn't that bad, but yeah, I get the glass call out there and get that roughed up a little bit, and
That's good.
So it's okay. So now we've got you scouted. We've got your calls. What are you going to use to shoot this bad boy in the face? You going to use a 12 gauge, 20 gauge, 410 bow?
Well, it's I have a 12 gauge. I have a crossbow. A few years back, I got two birds with recurve, or not a recurve. I'm sorry, compound.
Nice.
I kind of had a little bit of a shoulder problem. I kept reducing the poundage until I got to a point I didn't have no confidence left in it at all, so I retired it. So I got a crossbow, but I like the crossbows, but the shotgun likes to go too. So in the fall, I use the crossbow most of the time, but in the spring, I usually take the shotgun.
Okay.
12 gauge.
You know, we had an interesting conversation before the show started, and us three were talking about shot selection and what kind of shot to use, or when you're out patterning a gun. I mean, and we had this talk, I think, yesterday, even at the seminar, is talking about, feed the gun what it likes. I mean, kind of talk a little bit about that, about patterning a shotgun. And, some guys, want to spend they think that if you spend the most amount of money on a box of shells, it's going to be the best. But that's not always the case.
Yeah. Well, that's very true. You have to find out what your gun likes, first of all. And anymore, it just seems like every time you read stuff in magazines and Facebook and all that, people want to see how far they can shoot. And what we're trying to do is get people to call the birds in close. That's turkey hunting. When the bird's out there just out of range strutting and you want to get them in close, that's turkey hunting. But the new shot, first of all, the manufacturers have to come up with something new every year. They got to do something to try to get ahead of the next guy, And over the years, it's been, Federal come out with the third degree, and then the heavy shot came out, or vice versa. And now the thing is a TSS, which, if it works for you, if that's what you want to shoot, go for it. But that stuff's so expensive, and I like, and in fact, it's hard for me to understand how you can take a turkey shell with 7, 8, and number 9 shot and kill a bird. They do it. Every day you hear about them doing it. So I'm sure it works. Well, with the tungsten shot, those BBs hit so much harder than the old lead shots. But anyway, get them in close. That's kind of what we want to do. You get them in close, you can kill them with anything. You don't have to have expensive shotguns or expensive shells. And then again, expensive decoys. Man, you can go crazy on decoys, and I love them. Don't get me wrong, I love those new decoys, $130, $40 a piece. But that's a lot of cash just for a decoy.
It is, especially when you're guiding for somebody and they shoot your decoy.
You know what? That's a great example. How about we go to our break and we come back? Let's talk about decoys.
All right, we're gonna step outside. We'll take our next break. We'll be right back after this. Okay.
It's all fun and games.
Until somebody shoots your decoy, right? It's like, man, that was my $150 David Smith decoy.
That's my AVNX.
Yeah.
I got a story to tell about my dad shooting a decoy. If you got time.
Oh, okay. Next segment, we're gonna talk decoys. So,
that's good stuff. I know. We go to pick up waterfowl decoys after the hunt. Shot birds and stuff, and it's like, wait a minute. Why? Who's ground SWAT or water SWAT, man? Because some of these decoys got BBs in them, right? It's like, what's going on here, man?
And anybody out on Facebook got any questions for Mr. Miller? Bring them on. The last question was a great one about Michigan and two bird limit. That's a good one. I like that. I'd like to see it.
All right, you ready, Dan?
All right, I'm ready.
All righty. Here we go. Stand by. 3, 2, and 1. All right, we're back. Third segment of the show, and before we went to break, we said we're going to talk about decoys.
Yeah, you got you got your gun to eat some shells. You figured out what your gun likes to shoot, because that's kind of important. You actually had an incident with your dad that I think we've talked about this on the show, but he didn't shoot his gun, but then you found out he had a little issue with his gun.
Yeah, he missed 2 birds one morning, and he was using an old Model 12 Winchester, and he's like, 20 yards, and I'm like, you don't miss. What do you mean you missed? And he's like, no, man, I missed 2 birds this morning. And I said, well, what shells you shoot? And he said, I don't know. I said, what do you mean you don't know? Don't you pattern your gun? He said, no. So we went, this is what we did, Jim. We went and got a log out we had it in the field, an old blow down log, and it took 4 eggs. And I put them, I don't know, 4, 5, 6 inches apart. Set them on this log. Or maybe it's 5, I think it was 5 eggs. I said, okay, shoot for the center egg. And when he shot, and we were 20, 30 yards away, he broke the outside 2 eggs. He had a hole. It had a hole in the pattern, for whatever shell he was shooting.
Kidding.
Yeah, and he's like, "Wow." I said, "That's why you pattern your gun."
Right.
So
you get that fixed. Now you're going to use some decoys, and before we went to break, there's price ranges all over from a $5.99 foam one to a few $100.
Yeah.
Out there. So Jim, what's your go-to setup when you're gonna take some decoys out? Do you 1 decoy, 2 decoys, 10 decoys? What do you take out there?
Well, it kind of varies from the season to season. Now, one thing I like to do in early season when the birds are still grouped up, I like to use a strutter. Right now I just use the 3/4 strutter. I got tired of hauling a full strutter around town, but anyway, I try to get a 3/4 strutter out there. I have a breeding hen I like to put in front of that decoy, and then sometimes I put another hen off to the side with a feeder or something, and then every once in a while I decide I'm going to put them all out. So there's been times I put 7, 8 decoys out. I'm always playing with decoys, find out how the birds react to them and all that. But and then as the season goes on, turkeys fight all the time, and turkeys get tired of being beat up. Even the older birds get beat up by a bunch of jakes, and sometimes those strutters are a little intimidating for an older bird, or any bird for that matter. And so as the season wears on, I don't put the strutters out anymore. I may still put out a jake decoy. I have a jake feeder I use and a hen or 2, but depending on the time of the year, the strutters sometimes I think hurt you more than they help you in late season.
Okay.
Yeah, because Dan Prince talked about yesterday, later in the season when you use a strutter, you actually might start to scare the younger birds off.
Yeah, especially if you got a youth out there and you're trying to get him his first bird and you want to let him take a jake.
Right, exactly. So absolutely, that is totally correct.
They're like, no, I've been beat up too much. I am not going near that guy.
Now, when you set them up, do you set them up directly in front of you? Do you set them off to your right side, left side? What's your point of attack when you're thinking about setting them up?
I put the birds right in front of the blind. If I'm bow hunting or crossbow hunting, I put them close, 10 to 15 yards. If I'm shotgun hunting, I'll put them out there about 20, 25 yards. And but right in front of the blind, and you don't want to get them too close. You want to spread them out a little bit, but generally keep them in close. And if you put them out there too far, and the bird comes almost to the decoys, he's not in range. But if you get him close and he's almost to the decoys, he still may be in range.
Okay. Well, speaking of decoys and putting decoys out, have you ever been guiding and ever had any issues with anybody blasting a decoy? I mean, we kind of mentioned that in the break a little bit, and actually, some of these decoys are really expensive.
Yeah, well, luckily this wasn't a real expensive decoy, but my dad years ago, he was having trouble with his eyes, and we called in a bunch of jakes. Well, Dad didn't care if it had a long beard. He didn't care if it was legal. He was shooting, and these birds are milling around. And I told Dad, "Well, be careful you don't shoot 2 of them because of the way they're milling around. Wait till one gets them away from the others." And finally, a bird to the right kind of got away from the rest of the birds, and he shot, and the decoy went flying about 10, 15 feet. And of course, the turkeys took off. And Dad said to me, "Did I get the right one?" I said, "No, Dad, you shot the decoy." But being Jake's got hard on the call, cut at him. They come right back, and he managed to kill one. But he made a good shot, and the decoy was a nice headshot.
You gotta like that, man.
One of our listeners, Charles Byram, he's listening from Iowa, but he's going to catch the rest of the show tomorrow because he's going to go set his decoys now for tomorrow's opener in Iowa. So he's getting the bug out there, and he's going to be hitting it tomorrow. It sounds like a daybreak.
I wonder if he's setting decoys now, or if he's just getting them out in the field to his blind or his spot where he's going to hunt. So
maybe he's going to be out there all night waiting.
Yeah, I don't know. Interesting.
But you know what?
I don't think.
Go ahead.
I don't think I'd want to put them out the night before that, unless you put them out right at dark or something. And that gives the birds the opportunity to come in and check them out, and maybe they see something they really don't like, you know. And even though sometimes, I don't know if turkeys can reason or not, sometimes it really appears that they do. And I'd be a little bit afraid to put them out there, then they come back next morning, they're right in the same spot, you know. But that's just my feeling.
You know, that's a great question. Have you ever had a tom? You call, he's gobbling back, and he does that to you. We typically call it he hangs it up. But do you ever watch him and then go? It looks like he all of a sudden got really smart.
He's like, I don't like the looks of that. I've seen that before.
Has it ever happened to you?
Well, yeah, I really can't say for sure, you know, but I've had birds that were coming good, you know, and the next thing you know, they get up and see the decoy. I'm thinking, whoa, wait a minute, you know, hold it. So I don't know if decoys have spooked them. Nature's way is the hen is supposed to go to the tom anyway. The tom gobbles to get the hen to come to him. So, you know, a lot of these birds, maybe older birds that have got some smarts, get out there and gobble. If the hen doesn't come to him, she's not interested in breeding, so why should I bother? You know, go find another one. So, so you just don't know. But nature's way, the hen is supposed to go to him.
Right, and that's a great thing. Again, yesterday at the workshop, Dan Prince kind of mentioned it to it. Actually, Mike kind of did that on my first bird. Started actually talking to the hen more than the toms at first, and I kind of learned that to do that as well. But yeah, in nature, the hen is supposed to go to the tom, but when we're not moving, we're trying to reverse nature here. And it is kind of...
So it makes it hard to hunt turkey sometimes. You know, you're trying to fool that bird, and that's what makes it so satisfying when you do get a bird. You know, is that the fact, hey, I fooled him. I got him to do what he's not supposed to do.
Right. And Charles Byram did say he's getting him into the area so he has less to carry.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Good deal.
But yeah, you know, Mike was calling and actually started going after the hen, and the hen got so mad. And I've done it too lately, and it makes it kind of fun out there when you start going after a hen and the hen goes after you.
Yeah, that hen came in and she got within probably 5 yards of me, and she was clucking and putting, trying to figure out. She knew where that sound came from, but she couldn't figure out where the hen was.
Right.
You know, and I just sat still, and she walked within probably 5 yards of me. It was pretty good. It was a lot of fun.
Well, many years ago, we were up to Glennie. We had hunted the first season, and me and my old hunting buddy got our birds and went back up the next week just with the camera, set the blind up, and birds roosted down the river bottom, and right at daybreak, they gobbled and called, and they wouldn't come. And we saw a hen and a couple jakes, you know, messing around there a couple 100 yards away. And so anyway, I struck up a conversation with this hen, and when she yelped back at me, I'd cut her off. I'd cut at her hard. And then she'd cut, and I'd cut her right off. Next thing you know, it looks like she grew about 5 feet tall. She comes stomping across that field and came right in the decoys. What followed her? 10-inch beard. He came in there. And I got the whole thing on video. He sit there and stomped my decoy for about 2 or 3 minutes. So that was a really cool hunt. We didn't even have guns.
You gotta like that. It's you know, watching, playing tricks on nature. You know, and getting them angry and getting them mad, and you know, let them do their thing. And I think that's what's so addictive about turkey hunting is the fact that you're actually talking to the animals. You know, you're carrying on a conversation back and forth. It's an interactive hunt, so to speak, kind of like waterfowl hunting as well. You know,
it's a lot.
Yeah. And
go ahead.
And one thing about it, what works today may not work tomorrow. You know, that's what's cool about turkeys. You know, you go on one day and the birds gobble their heads off. You go back the next morning, you know they're still there, not a gobble. You know, why is that like that? But another thing, a question I always had is birds like to roost over water. I mean, my question is why? You know, I want to know. And you know, not to be cynic, I guess, but I just want to know.
Right.
And nobody can really come up with a good answer on that. But they do like to roost over water. I don't know.
Really?
Maybe they feel safer. I don't know.
Well, Danny and I, back years ago when we first started hunting together, we hunted in some state land, and it seemed like the birds they didn't want to cross water. They want to go around. They wouldn't really come around it either. It was flooded timber, but you go in the morning, and where are they at? they're up over top of the water.
Right, exactly. That's exactly what I was thinking. I'm like,
and then they'll pitch down and hit the dry land on the other side or whatever.
And go the other way.
Yeah, and it's just like, it's maddening, It's like, it didn't matter what side of the timber you picked. It seemed like you always picked the wrong side. So that's hard. Go ahead.
Go ahead. It could be a safety thing, They can hear if anything's trying to come,
splash through.
Comes in the area. They can hear them splash in the water. So that may be why they do that. But.
That makes sense to me. That you would get an alert by hearing splashing.
Now, see, that's a bird that reasons.
Right.
Like what you were saying earlier, Jim, about them reasoning. They figured out that they can hear that something coming through that water. So interesting, definitely interesting. Josh Hagerman just said predators because they feel safe above water. That's what he was just commenting on. So
and Charles is going out there to watch them roost.
Okay, he's going to put them to bed.
Put them to bed and shoot them in the face in the morning.
There you go.
But you know what? That's another thing. Is speaking of birds out there, they also come in quiet.
Yes.
They won't gobble. It's happened to me a couple of times. You're just sitting there, you're calling away, nothing, and all of a sudden. They're there.
Yeah.
And you're like, whoa. I
remember hunting with Randy Duncan one year. We were hunting some state land, and we were just out sitting up against a fallen down tree. And it was middle of the day, and all of a sudden, it gets to where it's warm, and you start just getting kind of lackadaisical, and we're sitting, not hearing any birds. And we're talking, just talking, carrying on a conversation quietly, and all of a sudden, he's like, there's a bird. And I'm like, where? He goes, right over your shoulder. And it was literally 10, 15 yards away to my right-hand side. And I was like, yeah, you're kidding me, big longbeard. I'm like, wow.
There you go. And Josh confirmed, coyotes won't go into the water to get close to the tree, so the birds can be in the tree. And
there you go.
It's reasoning.
Yes. Yeah, they're reasoning. Safety issue. So I tell you what, we're bumping up on our last break here. Let's take our last break and come back. Jim, I want to talk to you a little bit when we come back about your midsummer event that's coming up for the Jake's Day. So we're going to step outside, take our last break, and we'll be right back after this. Okay, guys, if you got questions.
Last segment of the show out there. If you got questions, anything for El Presidente Miller, a.k.a. Killer Miller, we'll throw them at him. And a good conversation on the live feed tonight about, other people, exactly what Jim said about being over water. Charles is going to go put him to bed tonight because he's opening tomorrow morning. Yeah, it's awesome. It's
upon us.
It's upon us, and that's what I like about it.
It is that time of year to get out.
Do you know from Jacob? Is it too late to get turkey tags for up in Oscoda? No, you can buy them over the counter, right?
If there's leftover private land tags. If not, you'd have to get 234 hunt, which would be the last part of May, correct, Jim, in that? Is that right?
Yes, but there's a lot of leftover permits available. There is a lot of them left.
Usually up in that area there is. At least I know in Alcona County, and I think Oscoda is part of that Zone A. Is Zone A or Zone B? I can't remember. But anyway, I know I've never had a problem getting a tag after the draw, the initial draw, at least on our property. So, but
I think it's 119 is sold out. I think that's the first hunt in that area, whatever area that is. But
okay,
everybody wants to go opening day, but there's permits available all season.
Okay, Tim Cius just has a question. I'll ask that coming back in.
All right.
Okay, here we go. Stand by in 3, 2, 1. Welcome back. Last segment of the show. We're wrapping up a little turkey talk, and we'll continue the conversation a little bit after if we need to, once we wrap up the podcast portion. But we just got a question in from the guy who supplies us with our calls, the Lim Walker game calls. We got them right here in front on the table. That's what we use out in the field for our pot calls. And he asked, Jim, do you have your Grand Slam yet? Have you even tried to go get your Grand Slam and hunt it out of state?
No, I haven't even tried. In fact, I've only hunted Michigan all these years. I talked about going out. I'd like to go try for a Merriam's, but
okay,
I just haven't done it. Haven't done it yet.
Okay, so is that something that's like high on your bucket list that you want to do?
No, not really. I'm not. I don't know. Everybody talks about want to go out west hunting, want to go to Florida hunting, and I don't know. I guess I'm just a homebody. I like Michigan, and even though I could extend the season, by going to other states, but no, that's something that I suppose it was available. I had some some connections or something, I probably would do it, but it's not on my bucket list, not really.
Okay.
I tell you what, though, after watching Jay Gregory do the interview with us at a golf hat,
Right.
yeah, from Florida
In March.
in March, the Osceolas look pretty tempting. Okay, I'll go to
Right.
Florida in March.
No kidding, man. The weather's a lot better down there than it is here at that time of year, anyway.
Right.
So,
You know, so Jim, we've found out how you scouted. We found out what calls you use. We found out what you shoot. Find out how you set up your decoys. Well, obviously we've got pictures of you with a bird. What's your favorite way to have the bird? Do you breast them out? How do you enjoy your wild turkey?
Well, my favorite way is I like to breast them out and like to shred the meat. I mean, first of all, cook in the crock pot all day with, your choice of spices. And then shred it up and put barbecue sauce on, make it like a pulled turkey sandwich. And
Ooh.
that's my favorite way.
I've not heard
And,
of that.
yeah, wife's not too hot on wild game. If she was just try it, it'd be different, but you know how that goes.
Right.
So for me to cook, to pick a bird and to cook a bird for the family, it's out of the question. So that's my favorite way. Just,
Okay.
that's not just the breast. You could take the legs and thighs off too and do the same thing. Just
Right.
shred it up and
Yeah,
barbecue sauce.
a barbecue wild turkey sandwich.
Danny's
we
favorite
play.
way to have turkey is put it in a glass, in a highball glass. Oh, that's.
Wrong wild turkey, buddy.
You didn't think that after you asked that question, I was not going to go there.
I said that, and I'm like, oh, I hope he doesn't. But you saved me, Jim. And one way I found out is I had a gentleman take the breast off my last turkey, and he smoked them, and that came out really good. I like it smoked. That was really good.
Well,
Yeah, that's something I've tried that with waterfowl and all that. In fact, I think my favorite piece of meat I ever cooked was a smoked Canada goose that I had picked, and that was good stuff. But I haven't done that in years. And it takes up a lot of freezer room. Unless you got a freezer to set aside just for your wild game, it takes up a lot of room to pick a bird or pick a goose or whatever.
right. Yeah, I've not heard the barbecue. That sounds intriguing. I have to try that sometime.
Sounds yummy at this point.
That's why we always ask these questions, because we get different ways that people tell us different ways to try different wild game meat. So we're always looking for a new way to try it. That's awesome.
Hey, when you're in
Funny
the
people.
Go ahead.
go ahead.
Funny people talk about wild game. We play euchre a couple times a month, and I start taking turkey or venison or something over there. And I wouldn't lie to anybody. If they ask what it was, I'd tell them. But if they don't ask, I don't say nothing. And those people just devour that stuff. And when they find out later it's wild game, they turn their nose up and says, "Come on now, how many sandwiches did you have?" "Well, I had 2." So and now all those people are hooked. They understand that. If the game's not cooked right or processed right, yeah, it could be a disaster. But if it's done right, it's no different than a tame bird.
Yeah, I fully agree with you. I used to turn my nose up at a lot of different things like that. Deer heart was one of them. And like you said, the way it's prepared, I could never stand the smell of it cooking. The way that I've always seen it prepared. It's like, if it stinks, I'm not going to eat it. Well, the guys talked me into it one time. Somebody else had tried to cook it a different way. And I tell you what, I'm like, where have you been all my life? It was some of the best meat I've ever ate. And you're right, Jim. It's just all the way it's prepared. But a lot of people, yeah, they'll turn their nose up if they don't know what it is. And then, like you said, yeah, you ate 2 sandwiches and you went back for a third, and we didn't have any more left. Is the reason you didn't have 3. So
Right.
But while we got a little bit of time here, we got about 5, 6, 7 minutes left. I do want to talk a little bit about the event you guys have got coming up here in August. And this is something you do every single year, and it's something you do for the kids. Can you talk a little bit about your Jake's event?
Yeah, I can't tell you how long I've been doing it. I was trying to figure it up the other day, and it's been so long I give me a headache. But anyway, we have it at Williams Gun Sight Company, and Tom Wright, he pretty much shuts the ranges down. When we go out there with our event, and he's just a great guide, whatever we want, and he gives us. And it's a totally free event. It's always the first Saturday in August, and this year it's August 3rd. And we have a fish pond full of rainbow trout. The kids catch them, they get to keep them, and some of these trout 14, 15 inches. And we have a hard time keeping the dads out of the fish pond, you know. And it's, come on, let your son fish. You know, it's his turn.
Right.
And we do face painting and some of the stuff that's not even outdoor related, like a bounce house, dunk tank, but just stuff that kids have a lot of fun doing. The DNR comes out, brings the fur displays, so the kids like hands-on stuff. They want to touch, you know, so they can touch these furs. We have BB gun shooting and shotgun shooting, and you know, one thing we got to be really careful of. When we first started doing this, we weren't thinking it through completely. Some of these kids never shot a shotgun before, and some of these guns we had, if it's a smaller child, the gun didn't fit them at all. You know what happens when the gun doesn't fit you? They get hurt.
Yeah, right.
And if you get hurt, my granddaughter was one. She got hurt. It took a year to get her to shoot again.
Right.
For just a year. It's just like, you know, a dog getting gun shy. You know, it's just hard to break them of it. So one thing we got to be more careful of, making sure we have guns for the smaller kids, and to ask that child, hey, have you ever shot before? You know, and if it's no, well, you'd spend a little extra time with them. And if we're not too busy, mom's standing there, and you know, typically we have mom and dads come out, but mostly it's mom bringing the kids out. And you just try to think of, you know, situation, you know, dad's gone and dad's probably not ever going to take them hunting and all that. So they'll ask mom, you ever shot a shotgun? Well, no. We want to? Oh, I don't know. Well, come on, shoot. So they will shoot, get them interested. And like we talked earlier about getting the adults interested too. But it's just a great event. Kids everybody under 17, we buy lunch for them. We get pizza from Little Caesars, and we just have a great time.
It's always a lot of fun to see, 50 or 100 kids at the time you're there running around. And I mean, I know you guys run more than that throughout the day, but when you see those kids just plowing around that place and shooting bow and arrows and building birdhouses and just all the different things that you guys offer them, and it's free. It's simply incredible. But like you said, getting the parents involved as well. It's that's where my son learned how to tie fishing flies with a gentleman from the planetarium that comes out there. I can't remember his name, but he had, the first time we brought our kids out there, he had fly tying seminar, and Michael just sit and watched him tie fly after fly after fly, and we had to buy him a fly tying kit afterwards. Yeah, you know.
That was Richard Walker. He has since left the area, so I don't know what we're going to do this year. But that, like you said, that was a great event. I mean, the kids love that. And one thing I didn't mention is the Michigan bow hunters. They come out and set up their archery range, and they run that whole thing. We don't have to worry about any of that. They bring their own people to run it. And I tell you what, they'll have a line of kids, 10, 15 deep sometimes shooting those bows. It's just a fun event. And get kids in the outdoors, get away from the computers and stuff for a little while, And what we're going to do this year, we did it years in the past. We gave the kids a little packet of different handouts, and we put a note in there. If you don't think you're going to have the opportunity to ever hunt turkeys and you want to, write and tell us why you want to go. And I tell you what, some of these letters we got back, I tell you what, it kind of gets right to you. Dad's out of the picture, and mom's disabled, and we get thinking about they're thinking about evicting us and stuff like that. And, God, man. Yeah. So the last year we did that, we ended up taking 3 kids out, and they all killed birds. And, the one young man, we did get a bird while he was out with us, but Dad was with us, and Dad picked up enough just that morning, messing with the calls. He went back out a week later, and Holly called the bird in for a son, and he shot it. So,
nice. That is cool.
So that was really cool, and that's the greatest thing in the world, to be out with somebody and let them shoot their bird. And the boy I took out that year was 13 years old, and these birds were coming in. They didn't come in at first. They gobbled, but they wouldn't come in. We gobbled at them, picked them off, and they finally came in. And next thing you know, there's 2 10-inch birds in the decoys, and he's breathing so hard, I'm surprised the birds didn't hear it. Of course, I was too. But he got a bird, and that bird is on the Commemorative Bucks website in past years for youth hunts. But yeah, it's just a great sport, and great getting new people involved, seeing the smiles on their faces.
That's awesome. So that's August 3rd. Do you have times yet?
Yeah, we start about 10 o'clock and run till, I believe, 6 o'clock.
Okay.
It's an all-day event.
And so it's not something you got to be there when it opens. It's ongoing events all day long, so if somebody can't get out till afternoon, that's fine. You're not going to miss a thing.
Right, exactly.
And every year we try to add something to it. And so we're trying to add some. One thing we'd like to do, we'd like to have somebody come out and set up a primitive camp. We had that years ago, and boy, the kids love that, man. Throwing axes, and the teepees are set up, and it was really cool. But we got to bring that back somehow, because that was quite a interesting event.
They really enjoyed that, but
so there you go, guys in Michigan, in mid-Michigan area. If you're into that, Jim's group here, the Flint River Chapter NWTF, is looking for some help in that area. So
and Jim, where can anybody go to find out more information about NWTF and your branch and anything else they want to know?
Well, they can go to the NWTF website. I think it's NWTF.net, I believe. The state board have their website, Michigan State Chapter NWTF. We don't have a website. We're on Facebook, but they can call me. I'll talk turkey to anybody anytime. That's one of my favorite things to do. So
he does, folks.
So I can give him I can give you my phone number if anybody wants to know or talk turkey. Just give me a holler.
All right, they can PM us and we can get them their number, his number, and get a hold of you. But like you said, go to Facebook, check it out. NWTF Flint
River Chapter.
Thank you. Is on Facebook as well. Look them up. August seems far away, but we'll be here in a jiffy.
Turkey season will be over, and we'll be putting food plots in and getting ready for the fall planting season, and we'll be right into bow season.
Right. Yeah. So I brought the Packer Max over for you today. You'll be taking that down to Indiana this weekend. We got turkey season. We got planting season.
Mm-hmm.
We got fishing season. We got trout. Yeah, it's starting to wind up.
Well, before we wrap up the podcast portion of the show here, before we go, we'd be remiss if we didn't talk Lim Walker Game Calls. That's who supplies us with our pot calls here for turkey season here in Michigan. They're out of West Virginia. Tim Sias, who happened to be on the radio this weekend in West Virginia. I'll listen to the episode. Very nicely done, Tim. And also gut check indicators. You get their turkey, the turkey wipes, and that will determine if you've got just a clean blood hit or if you've actually got a gut shot.
Right. Yeah. You can either get the little disc wipes. You can wipe the arrow with, or you can buy the actual arrow wrap to put right on the arrow. But you know what? You're doing that and you're sitting out the blind. You better have some Hunter's Blend coffee.
Absolutely. So
you know what? And go to huntersblendcoffee.com. Remember, use the promo code capital UNJ. You get 10% off of your order there. But yeah, we would not be, thanks to Tim getting us those calls, we'll be running those again. He did do a good job on the radio.
He did.
And he passed his test with his daughter,
yep,
which is even better.
Jim,
yeah.
Thanks for being on the show with us here, tonight. I really appreciate you taking time out of your day.
Well, I enjoyed it. It's a good time.
Well, I tell you what, let's wrap up the podcast portion, and for those of you on the live stream, we'll hang out for just a few minutes. But for everybody who's listening to the podcast, make sure you catch out the live stream portion that we put on YouTube on Wednesdays, or you can go over to our Facebook page and you can catch it there as well. So that'll do it for the podcast this week, folks. We'll see you again next week. For those of you on the live stream, if you've got questions, fire away, because we're going to wrap things up here very shortly.
That's right. And we'll let Jim get back to resting and relaxing.
And dreaming about turkeys. So,
one thing that I wish people would think more about is respect for the bird. I hear stories about, I knew the bird was out of range, but it was the last day, and I decided to shoot anyway. I just, I don't know. It's just kind of a pet peeve of mine that we need to respect what we got. That's just, here comes this beautiful bird in strutting. And you shoot it, and next thing you know, it's just a pile of blood and feathers, and you can't help but feel bad that you took a life, but we'd like to eat them. That's what it takes, I guess. But
right.
But that's just kind of a pet peeve of mine that we need to show the game more respect.
we talk about ethical shots, especially in archery. Danny and I talk about it a lot throughout the year, and whatever your effective range is, for somebody, it might be 20 yards. For somebody else, it might be 40. Whatever that effective range is. But you know what? Do, like you said, Jim, do the animal some respect. I agree.
It's funny you say that because I think it was a couple years back now. It was one of the juries. I want to say it was Terry. He took like a 65, 70-yard shot with a shotgun using the extended range, the whole 9 yards. And he got such a firestorm on social media about why'd you take such a long shot, this and that. But he came back with a simple answer. He goes, look, I practiced it. I was comfortable out to that range. And that's the most important thing, I think.
Knowing what your gun can do.
Knowing what you can do.
Yep.
Yeah, I agree.
Yep.
But I'm a lot like you too, Jim, though. Is like, you get a bird that's hung up out there just to throw a haymaker just because. No, I mean, the challenge is to get that bird in close. Get him in tight.
Mm-hmm.
It's not getting him within range. See if you can get him in so he's almost at the end of your gun barrel.
We all hear it every year about I missed a bird or I missed two birds. I bet you a lot of those cases, those birds weren't missed. They just were shooting too far, and they peppered that bird.
Yep.
The bird's going to run away and maybe or may not die. My brother shot a bird a few years back that when he cleaned it, the whole right side of it was just festered. I mean, it was somebody had peppered the body, was shot, and it didn't kill the bird. It was soon to die, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Another thing too, if you're shooting too far, you really don't know. You shoot a one bird there, and if it's in the woods, there may be other birds there you may hit too. It happened to a friend of mine. He went up to pick up his bird, and there's a dead hen laying behind it too. If you get him in close, you can make sure you're shot.
Yeah, you don't have to worry about like you said, letting them clear, letting them spread out. I missed. I didn't miss. I rolled a tom 2 years ago. And I felt so sick about it. I misjudged the distance. It was one of them. I was on my way back into camp and heard a hot tom and called to him. And I was in a ravine and I was shooting uphill, and I I knew what my distance was, but I didn't compensate for the fact that I was shooting uphill. And I flat out screwed it up, and the bird actually took flight and flew off, and I never did. I went out and looked for feathers and looked for blood, and I actually went in the same direction he flew, and I spent a lot of time looking for the bird, but I felt sick, because I misjudged that distance. And I know exactly what you're talking about. It's heartbreaking.
It's going to happen to everybody sooner or later. You just try not to have it happen. I shot a bird one time at 52 yards, and I killed him. I was lucky. I misjudged the distance. It was in a field, and it's hard to judge distance in a field.
Right.
And that bird had BBs in his wings and his legs, but luckily I did get one or two into the brain spinal cord. I did kill him, but it was a good lesson.
Well, I think too, the older we get, the more seasoned we become as hunters. At least I like to hope this is the case, that we don't take those longer shots. We become a little more reserved, and it's like like you said, you want to experience that hunt. You don't want it to get over too quick. You want it to last.
Right.
So we try to close that distance.
It's as you get older, it's not so much about blasting that bird, taking that bird. And man, to me, the successful part of the hunt is seeing birds, seeing one strut, and gobbling, and then maybe a shot. But I want to see those other three things first. That's just.
There's nothing better than watching them strut in a field like that. I woke up the other morning and I posted that picture. It was way off in the distance, but that bird was strutting in the field next to the house. And I stood at the top of the stairs looking out our back window for probably 15, 20 minutes just in awe watching.
I know, isn't it amazing?
And watching him work with the hens and the ones that were a little receptive, he'd go chase them down a little bit. And it's really cool watching nature, If you take a little time and slow down a little bit, time enough to smell the roses, as they say, you get to see some really cool stuff.
Right.
So. But doesn't look like we got any other questions here, so we're going to let you go. I appreciate you taking time and hanging with us tonight.
Well, thank you.
And if you guys got any
have a good
questions,
season.
yeah, you too, and post some pictures. I'm sure we'll see some stuff out there, and keep us up to date, and we'll. And like I told you yesterday, I might even slip over there one Tuesday evening and hang out with you guys after work one night. So we'll see what we can do.
Yeah, we got business to take care of at our meetings. We get the business taken care of. Talk about turkeys, get that boring stuff done, and then just talk about the good stuff.
There you go.
There you go.
That's the part I enjoy. So, all right, Jim, you take care, and we'll talk at you soon.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Yeah. Bye bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, folks, we're going to go ahead and wrap up the live stream tonight. And if you guys got any questions, feel free to post them to us. If you got any questions for Jim, we'll PM him and get
you the answer.
Get you the answer, get the number to you so you can talk turkey with him. So y'all take care, and we'll be back again next Sunday night. Next Sunday night, yeah.
Next Sunday night.
That's not
7 o'clock.
That's not Easter Sunday.
No, we still got a couple weeks.
Okay, so we'll be back on again next Sunday night. Good Lord willing, the creeks don't rise. We'll be here at 7 o'clock. Y'all take care, and we'll see you again next week.